Yeah. We do have what is genuinely a sit down. As a British boxing fan, this is a sit down and watch for the evening kind of event, because the main event, George Liddard fighting for a European title, this is a bit of a sort of tick box, isn't it? It's a good opportunity for him, but it's not necessarily the most exciting fight in the world against a relatively unknown Italian in Morello. But you've got Jimmy Sains fighting in a domestic clash for the Commonwealth. You've got Nelly Buttigieg fighting in a domestic clash for the English. You've got TMA 18 going for her first professional title. Pat McCormack, Johan Croft. You've got lots of talent that seeds of interest have been planted a year ago, 6 months ago, in kind of build-up fights towards this kind of thing. In the copper box, this is a good classic domestic, even if the main event's not kind of top tier.
Yeah, and I think it's a massive moment for Georgie Liddard's career. And listen, he's ticked all the boxes so far in his career. He's picked up all the title and he's going the traditional way. And Matchroom seems to be building him nicely. And I'm quite happy that it's been moved to the copper box. Obviously, we don't know why it's been taken away from your call. Perhaps the hot weather that we've had recently.
I think it would be.
Yeah, it probably has been one of the reasons. But yeah, he's got a decent opponent in front of him on Saturday night. Like you said, don't know much about him. Hasn't fought outside of Italy, I don't think. So it'd be interesting to see what he brings to the table. But like we saw just the other week at Lehigh against McKenna, is tough opposition, and you're always guaranteed that with these European fighters who you don't really know a lot about, and they normally take you the distance. So yeah, it's going to be a tough fight for Liddard on Saturday night, but it's another one where if he gets through this in flying colours like he has in his previous fights, then I'm not being funny. The talks of world titles are going to be there in 2027 for him, and he was there at. I can't remember how many weeks ago it was. I saw a video that he was at the Olympic Stadium, is it? West Ham's home matches, and he was there manifesting one day that he'd be fighting there, and that would be incredible. I don't know.
Well, to fight in a championship stadium.
I know.
I've been saying from day one.
Unbelievable. I don't get into the football politics. Well, you're wearing a Leeds shirt, so
you mentioned the world title with George Liddard, and
he's not far off, is he?
I'll admit this, because I remember I was sat chatting to a good mate of ours, Regan, who runs another channel, International Boxing News, and he's a lovely guy, and he trains a lot with the boys down at Tony Sims, and he's a massive fan of George Liddard. And I remember saying to him, I think he said he was one of the top prospects in Britain at the time. And I remember kind of laughing it off and be like, hey, good way, I know you're biased, whatever, And I said, I don't think he's a world title level fighter. I'll admit that. I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. I do think he has got the potential to fight for a world title. I'm not saying, but, when you look at the middleweight scene at the moment, like we said before, you've got Carlos Adames, you've got Aaron McKenna, and then outside of that, it's pretty poor. It's not that strong a division. When you look at those periphery names, Callum Walsh, Tim Tszyu, they're all fighters that if you stuck George Liddard in there, off the back of a European title win, off the back of a really impressive win over Kieran Conway, you'd say, yeah, I think he can mix it with those boys. Maybe not at the top level, but hey, why not? Why the hell not?
Yeah, I sit looking at this card. It's a really good card. It's not the type of card that's going to catch the interest of like a casual boxing audience compared to what we've got coming up next weekend, obviously with Moses Homa and all the hype around him. But for people like us who are tuning into boxing every week, it feels like these 4 or 5 fighters have been almost on every card with each other for the last sort of 18 months to 2 years, really, sort of slowly.
Those top 3 boys, Lely, Jimmy and George, me and you both watched.
Yeah, we've seen them on top tier.
Top tier in Brentwood. And that's what I mean. They've sort of sowed the seeds of the.
Yeah,
it feels like we followed them as well, haven't we? Since starting this podcast, we have
the street, or just
not followed well, obviously not, but we followed their careers so far from an early stage, and now they're getting into these big matchups and big title fights where they're going to get tested and they're going to see where their level is. And I'm not being funny. Like we said, Liddard has got through all flying colours, and Jimmy Sains is another fighter similar to Georgie Liddard in the sense of, what was his ceiling? We don't know yet. And he's coming up against a tough opponent who just beat Aaron Bowen, I think, last time out. So, yeah, look, it's a great, for me, Matchroom get criticised for their shows and not being as competitive. But when you sit down like we're doing now and actually talk about it and go into detail on them, they're viewing, you can view them and go, yeah, it's a decent matchup there. I'm going to watch them. And like you said, you're going to be sat there from 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock onwards, depending on what time the football finishes. And you're going to be watching it and you're going to be intrigued by it because, like I said, we followed particularly Team A18's from her debut to where she is now, trying to pick up her first pro title. She's been, catching the eye all the time because it's statement after statement with her. And, she's perhaps the future of of the boxing. But if she doesn't get through this fight on Saturday night, she can wave goodbye to Croke Park, where I think there's rumours of her being on there, or she's already on there. So, yeah, it's like a checkpoint for a lot of these fighters on Saturday night. And it starts with Georgie Liddard getting that European belt and then perhaps moving on to world honours in 2027. But for Jimmy Sains, it's all about continuing that momentum that he's gaining from going the traditional way. And then you look at Buttigieg, he's starting it, like what Georgie Liddard is then. He's starting it off now again. He's doing that route. So, yeah, there's decent viewing on Saturday night. And I feel like I'll get more value out of watching this fight than perhaps what's happening over in Vegas. But that perhaps is maybe down to me being a bit of a British boxing fan and, has a bit more knowledge on all of these fighters compared to the ones over in the States. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's a massive opportunity for Liddard, really, obviously, in terms of you'd expect it to be a tough Italian in the weight corner, which they normally are, but I think he'll get through this relatively comfortable on the weekend, and it's massive to pick up that European title. I think, to be honest, Matchroom have been quite poor when it comes to shows in the UK in terms of using some of their biggest names. I know most of the fights or big fights when it comes to Matchroom fighters have been abroad, or, well, even, with their biggest star, AJ is even going to America now. But in terms of these type of cards they've put together for their prospects coming through, I think have been brilliant. This is where they've really shined, I think, when it comes to the UK scene. And now for George Liddard to hopefully pick up the European title this weekend, and then, like you boys said, be almost one step away, either, on the cusp of a world title or a world title opportunity. But I think a perfect next fight for him, a middleweight, would be someone like Denzel Bentley.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that'd be obviously he's got to get through this weekend first, and you don't want to pre-plan too much. But I think that Denzel Bentley fight, when you look at someone that's been and mixed there, that sort of top level is probably, just under that world title level. I think him and Denzel Bentley would be a great fight to watch next.
Well, Denzel Bentley's probably going to have intrigue in watching the undercard in Vegas as well. I can't remember who the fighter is over there that is going to become, I think, interim for his belt or something. But yeah, look, I think Matchroom is going through like a transitional period of like all the old heads are going we saw just recently Craig Richards has gone to Zuffa. I think there's a transition happening at the moment, and we've seen all these youngsters coming through. And I'm not being funny, there's 4 names on this card that could perhaps be main eventers on other cards that they can do in the future. And there's some big fights.
I think Pat McCormack and Johan Croft
at the moment, yeah,
building up to their.
Well, Johan Croft is, like we talk about someone that's got a high ceiling. He's certainly got has certainly got that. But for those 4 fighters that are going to be looking at picking up titles on Saturday night, that they can main event anywhere. Perhaps in London for Liddard and Sains, but Team Ayton's got aspirations of Ashton Gate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank God I got that right, because I know Bristol Rovers, she probably's not a fan of, but she's got aspirations of big title fights.
Ashton Gate would be a brilliant place to watch boxing, by the way.
Absolutely, proper good stadium for it.
I love Ashton Gate.
I remember when I went there. It's quite,
No, it's look, like you say, there's a lot of talent on this card, but more importantly,
they're young as well. That's the other thing, because Queensbury, I know they're putting on decent shows and all, but do you reckon their stable's an aging stable, whereas Matchroom now are already got one eye on 20, 30
They've got
plus?
the king of the future, haven't they?
Well, true, but no, Queensbury have such a deep stable. Queensbury's benefit is they have lots and lots of fighters all the time. They have a constant revolving door of talent. If they lose, or if they're not, getting that excitement, then they can fall away. Whereas Matchroom are far more selective, particularly in their prospects. And you look at this one, Jimmy Sains fighting Tom Cowling, like you mentioned, just off the back of a win against Aaron Bowen, who was another of their prospects that got tested. It's not an easy fight for a Commonwealth title, this one. Cowling will be game. Cowling will be up for this one. It'll be interesting. Buttigieg is going in there against an unbeaten fighter in P.A. Gordon that's a Southern area title.
He's tough as well,
P.A. Again, another way he's fought on those top tier shows down in Brentwood. I think he picked up the Southern area title on one of those. Off the back of in his last fight, which was a really tough fight, and he got through. He really had to pull it out the fire in that fight to get through there. One of these sort of dramatic performances of the year, you'd have to say. And then TMA, and she's 6 fights into her professional career. A win on Saturday would get her to 7, and she's fighting Ellie Halliwell, who's fought I think it was Tyson Gallagher for the Commonwealth title in the past. Been there, didn't get absolutely swept away in that fight. This is not a give me a title. This is a go out there and earn a title. Prove to me, prove to Eddie, prove to the fans that you are a top prospect. And if you're not winning these kind of fights, then actually we're not interested. There's someone else who will be begging, who will be hopeful for your spot, and they can have it. And Pat McCormack's off the back of a loss, obviously, but Yohan Croft falls under that category again, where yes, he's against TBA. We don't know who he's up against. I'd like to see him up against someone that will test him a little bit, and I don't think we'll see that across 8 rounds. But they're building their fighters in a nice way, which I like.
Do you still class TMA Ayton as a prospect? If she wins on Saturday night?
If she wins on Saturday, no. Then she's she's done the building. She's now, if you're winning a Commonwealth title against a fighter that's lost on one occasion against a champion, you're no longer a prospect, really. You are a champion. You are someone who's looking to pick up titles. It's about then, if you've done it in a 10-2s as a woman, you've done it, that's world title level. No. That is world title rounds. We're not talking about a British title for 10 rounds or whatever. We're talking about her doing 10-2s, the world title rounds. So yeah, she's no longer a prospect.
And I'm not being funny as well. If you look at the partnership now that MVP are doing with Matchroom, that can even quickly elevate her, to world honours even quicker. But
getting her over in the States
is massive, yeah.
Really, really good.
Talking about that link as well, and trying to play promoter or matchmaker for the future.
Ben Thomas segment.
Obviously, you've got her based in Bristol. She could headline another Bristol fighter or Bristol-based fighter we know, which is signed with MVP as well, is Elizabeth Ashoba.
Yeah, featherweight.
Which I think would make for a fantastic fight to watch.
They've done lots of sparring, those two. I've spoken to both of them, and I know they've done lots of sparring together. And so, I mean, I'd pay pay-per-view just to be a fly on the wall for those spars, because they both, hit like hell. The fight I'd like to see for Tia next would be, again, it's still an all Southwest, all Bristolian derby. We've mentioned it a number of times. Megan Redstall.
She was brilliant when I watched her.
She was unbelievable.
What fight did she pick up last? It was a top tier card, wasn't it? Commonwealth.
But I don't. It's too many. There was way.
Was it the new one that they've brought out?
I think so. There was so many belts on that card.
Yeah, there was loads. Fair play. Yeah.
What's her name? Maisie Rose Courtney, wasn't it?
That was a brilliant
unbelievable. And don't get me wrong, it's a big test. It's a really tough ask for Tia. But I think if you are talking about her being, and maybe it's not one for Croke Parks, maybe it's not one next. Maybe you give her a slightly easier fight, just another kind of build, someone who'll stick it on her a little bit. But if you're looking at a main eventing in 2027, which is what I've heard in Bristol, someone from the Southwest like Megan Redstall that we've seen in the galleries, if you can get them in a decent venue and we're in Bristol or the surrounding area, I think that's fireworks. Certainly for the local community, but also I think it would deliver.
Yeah, I wonder where could they do it in Bristol?
That arena that
is the only place that they could. No offense, they could not do it in there.
No, there's not a huge amount of venues of that kind of mid-size is the problem. It's a big jump from somewhere.
Are they building an arena? I always read somewhere that Bristol are building an arena and it gets delayed.
Quite possibly. Obviously, there's it would
be the closest, unless they
Darts go to Exeter. They used to go to a place in Exeter that they.
I think the best thing you could do is bring a show to Cardiff, and I know we're slightly biased in that, but it's not
Cardiff.
It's one stop, man. A couple of stops on the train. You've got the likes of Joe Cordina, Yohan Garan Croft, Taylor Bevan.
Yeah.
You've got the core of the fighters.
Do you reckon that she could do the motor point?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. They could do the motor point. What's it, 5,500, 6,000? Easily, you could do that.
If more.
If not, if we're looking further down the line, there's the big arena that's being built down the bay. I don't know when that's due, but that's sort of 12,000. So it's kind of that next step up. But look, lots of exciting stuff. That's not for us to worry about too much. That's for
But it's exciting though, isn't it? Because like I said, they're the future now, aren't they? This card on Saturday night hasn't got a feel of next gen because they've passed that stage. I feel like a lot of these fighters on this card, but yeah, it's exciting, and hopefully now they can all get through and we can continue to build the narratives and build the stories, and they can build towards brighter futures, and hopefully they can main event in stadiums because we all love a stadium fight, don't we?
Punches chance. Punches Chance podcast.